Last section on tissue, and after this we'll go to the integumentary system. Function is looking at muscle tissue. There are three kinds of muscle tissue. There's skeletal, cardiac, and smooth. We will go into this with more detail when we do our muscular unit. But also look more at cardiovascular and smooth muscle when we get to those units as well. The function is to contract or shorten to produce movement. One thing you need to know about muscles is they can only contract and relax. They do not lengthen at all. They contract and then they relax, and then there's this kind of idea that they can lengthen as well, but they really don't. So there's always two sets of muscles for each movement. So there's one muscle to make things move one way, and there's another muscle to make things move the opposite way. And there are three types of muscles: skeletal, cardiac, and smooth. And skeletal, cardiac, and smooth they have some distinct differences that we're going to talk about. Also the locations, of course, they're all found in different places. Alright, so skeletal muscle. Starting with that one. Skeletal muscle tissue is voluntary, has striations, and multinucleate. Those are the main things I want you to get from this. We will go more into muscles, how they actually contract when we get to the muscle unit. They are kind of in layers, and the layers kind of pull apart. Think of like when you eat chicken and the chicken kind of pulls apart. You're actually eating the muscle of the chicken, you're not eating the fat of the chicken. So skeletal muscle is what you're actually consuming. You have control over the skeletal muscles, but you do not have control over the other kinds. Skeletal muscle is the only one that you can think about and actually moves. And it produces most of the movements of the body. So when you think about muscles, this is the group you're most likely thinking about. They do have striations. The striations are like stripes. It's kind of a banding appearance. And this banding appearance is made up of different parts, which we'll learn about later. But they have striations, and they also have many nuclei because these cells need to be able to communicate with each other very closely and very fast. And so having many nuclei present so that they can actually talk to each other is going to be helpful. They are long and cylindrical in shape. So think of a cylinder like a column, and they're all kind of linked together. They are long and about the same like width all the way across, and then they have those banding patterns that kind of go up and down them. Now when you look at it under the slides, you're probably not going to see the multiple nuclei, so that is not the best way to identify this. Looking that it's in straight lines and looking that it has that banding pattern, that's going to be the best way to identify this one. The multi-nuclei isn't really the method that you should rely on. All right, then we have cardiac muscle. With cardiac muscle, it is involuntary, and it's only going to be found in the heart. So we can't think of our heart and say, okay, go ahead and beat. Okay, beat now. We can't do that. It is not something that we have conscious control over. So it is involuntary, and it's only found in the heart. The vessels themselves are made out of something else. They do have striations, that banding appearance that the skeletal muscle has, and they only have one nuclei per cell, although again, that's not the best way to identify these. They do have branching though, and that makes them distinctive from the skeletal muscle. If you're going to get too confused, the cardiac and the skeletal are the ones that look most similar. So if you look for a branching pattern, and if you look for something that are called intercalated discs, the intercalated discs are darker bands, and these are between cells that allow them to communicate better. So if you can imagine, you want your heart cells to communicate better. You want them to be able to talk to each other. And so these intercalated discs allow for that. The other thing is with the branching makes the heart stronger. So the heart is a big muscle that does a lot of work, and it's really important, so you want the muscle to be very strong. And that's why if it's branching together, it's interconnected together. And again, those intercalated discs are allowing it to communicate faster too. Okay, now you can see that it does have the striations that we saw in the skeletal muscle, but now we've got these branches here. These branches that go, instead of just layer after layer, now we've got the branches that are connecting like one layer to the next layer. So that's an indication that is cardiac muscle. The other are these darker lines here, these discs. These are the intercalated discs. These are only found in cardiac. They are not found in skeletal. So if you look for the branching and if you look for the intercalated disc, that will set this apart from the skeletal muscle. Then the next is smooth muscle. With smooth muscle, this is the muscle that is found in the digestive tract. It is involuntary. We can't control how the food moves through our digestive tract. It's found in the stomach, the uterus, and also the blood vessels. So remember, the blood vessels also have epithelial lining. Well, they also have smooth muscle present in them. And that allows for the what's called vasoconstriction and vasodilation when the muscles contract, when the vessels contract and when they relax. So stomach, uterus, blood vessels is where the smooth muscle is found. This allows for peristalsis. Peristalsis is what moves the food through the intestines. I compare peristalsis to squeezing a tube of toothpaste. Okay, by the time the food gets to your digestive tract, it's all mushy and mushed up. So imagine toothpaste, and when you squeeze a tube, you apply pressure to the bottom, and then you move that pressure upwards to get the toothpaste out. That's basically what our digestive tract is doing. It's contracting, and then it's moving that contraction through the digestive tract to move the food. So that's what peristalsis is. There are no striations. There is only one nuclei, but again, not the best way to indicate it. The other thing is it's spindle shaped. So spindle shaped means it's kind of like pointy at the ends and then fatter in the center. So they kind of like lay over each other, kind of like that. And that's what the smooth muscle looks like. It's called smooth because it does not have any striations present. Skeletal, cardiac, smooth. This is what the smooth looks like under the microscope. So you can see it has kind of a spindle shape where it's thin here at the sides and then kind of fatter in the middle and no striations. So that's really the best way you can identify it. All right, the last type of tissue that we're going to learn for this section is nervous tissue. Its function is to receive and conduct electrical impulses, and it has neurons, and then nerve support cells. And we'll talk about that a lot more when we get to the nervous system. And the support cells are called neuroglia, and their job is to provide insulation, provide protection, and support. And they basically kind of wrap around the nerve cells to insulate them and help them stay in place and help that electrical signal travel faster. This one looks a lot different from the muscles. It looks like there's a lot of strings because these are the axons and the dendrites. Then we have our nerve cell bodies, and they're pretty distinctive. So here's our nerve cell body, and then we've got the axons and the dendrites coming off of that, and lots of supporting cells around it. So all of these would be the supporting cells surrounding them. So it looks like a nerve, a big body, and then lots of strings coming off of that. All right, any questions on any of this? Okay. I think I forgot to post the chart, so give me a second to post the chart. We're gonna follow the same pattern. The chart, the lab, the crash course, just like we did before. However, we are gonna have additional material with this. We're gonna talk about tissue repair and tissue diseases and things. So this isn't where this material ends. We've still got some stuff to cover. But like I said, we're only gonna take notes today and tomorrow this week, and then Wednesday we will have a Halloween activity to do instead. Yes?
So when will the crash course, this and all that be due?
Probably next week.
Okay.
Yeah,
Alright.
since there's not a lot of time this week. Any other questions? Okay. All right, give me just